All right, guys, we're going to be moving on to 3.2, which is one-step inequalities. And again, we kind of talked about graphing and some things yesterday. And I mentioned, I think in passing, that these are basically the same as equations with the exception of one rule that we're going to talk about right now. Um, but again, with these one-step inequalities, you basically just have one operation you have to do to get to a final answer. And so I guess I'll go ahead and cover the rule really quick before we jump into this first one. And so your rule is basically this: if you multiply or divide by a negative, then you have to reverse your sign. Okay, so that's basically the only real rule that's different than what you're dealing with when you're dealing with equations. So I would even practice the same kind of logic as far as thinking about this as having two sides. So this is one expression over here. This is another expression over here, and here's your sign. So it's just like the equal sign is there. So I would even put a line down through here if that would help you. If it don't help you, then that's fine. You don't have to do that, but it's just something that helps you kind of keep things separated. So again, with equations, your goal is always to isolate the variable. So in this case, we have a y right here that we need to isolate, which means that we need to get rid of this negative 2. Okay, so the way that we do the get rid of the negative 2 is we need to do addition, right? So I'm going to add positive 2 to both sides of this inequality, and I'm just going to bring my work down as I go. And so the only thing I have on this side, because this is going to cancel out, is I'm going to have a y, and it is still going to be greater than 11 plus 2, which is 13. So right here is my inequality. Now you remember I did not multiply or divide by a negative, even though I had a negative right there, and I added 2 to both sides. I still did not multiply or divide by a negative, so I don't need to reverse my sign. Okay, so this would be my answer. Y is anything that's greater than 13. All right, so let's look at another one. And again, we've only got 4 examples we're going to be looking at today, and these are all what your practice is going to look like. So again, on number 2, we have n plus 6 is less than or equal to. Remember, we talked about those signs yesterday. N plus 6 is less than or equal to negative 2. Okay, so again, I need to isolate this variable n. So in order to isolate this variable n, I need to get this positive 6 to the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and make my line. And I need to get this to the other side. So if I do it to this side, which what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to have to subtract, right? Because now I'm adding 6. So if I subtract 6 from this side, I have to also subtract 6 from that side as well. And so that leaves me with nothing on this side except the n, less than or equal to negative 8. Wait a minute. I should have flipped my sign, right? Because there's a negative. So this maybe should have been n greater than or equal to negative 8. That's not actually true, because even though I've got a negative answer, some people think because I get a negative answer, that means I've got to flip my sign. Well, that is not true. I did not multiply or divide by a negative, so I don't need to reverse my sign. Even though I subtracted 6 from both sides, I did not multiply or divide by a negative. So I can leave my inequality just like that. That right there is the correct answer. All right, now let's move on to number 3. If you notice number 3, again, the goal is always the same as with equations. I need to isolate that variable. So the first thing I'm going to do is put my line down through here. And now I got to ask myself, what is the operation between negative 4 and w? When those two numbers are right side by side, what operation is being indicated there? Well, we know that the operation here is multiplication. So in order to undo multiplication, I have to do the inverse of multiplication, which is division, which means I'm going to have to divide not only this side by negative 4, but I'm going to have to divide this side by negative 4 as well. So here we go. 4 divided by 4, that just goes away. So we end up with w is less than or equal to 20 divided by negative 4 would be negative 5, right? Well, before you say yes, think about the fact that in this case, we did divide by a negative. We divided the negative 4 by a negative 4. And so because I divided, I have to reverse my sign. So this one's not correct. You're going to get tired of me doing that, right? So what I should have had was w is greater than or equal to negative 5, okay? And we can always plug this back up into here and see if that makes it true or not. So again, that's another way that we could find out that that's the fact. But if you multiply or divide by a negative, just remember you have to reverse that sign. So this would in fact be the correct answer. All right, last but certainly not least, and this is one that people see this and they think, oh my goodness, there is no possible way I could do this. How in the world do I do this? Well, I want you to think again, what is the goal of any equation or inequality? What am I trying to do? I'm trying to isolate this variable, okay? So first things first, I'm going to draw my line because I know I'm working with two different sides of this inequality, right? The other thing I have to think about is, what am I doing to this x right now? Well, a fraction, ladies and gentlemen, is nothing more than a division problem. And so the mere fact that this is written as a fraction tells me that I'm actually taking this x and I'm dividing by 5. And so in order to clear out this fraction and get rid of this, I'm going to have to do the inverse operation of division because I'm dividing by 5. So the inverse of dividing something is multiplying it. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put me some parentheses around this, and I'm going to say I'm going to multiply by 5. Okay? Now, if I do it to this side, what do I have to do to this side? Well, I have to multiply this by 5 as well. So here we have 5 over 1 times x over 5, and you know what's going to happen, right? This is all going to cancel out. So nothing's left over here except the x. And now, do I put greater than or equal to? Let's finish this part. Negative 2 times 5 is negative 10. Now we have to ask ourselves, what goes right here? Well, I've got a negative answer, but again, that doesn't make any difference. Notice what I multiplied by. I multiplied times a positive 5. And so because I multiplied by a positive, not a negative, I do not have to reverse my sign. So it's going to be x is greater than or equal to negative 10. And again, your problems that you're going to have on your page today are exactly like this. Not the same exact problems, but they are the same type. So you should do very well on this today if you have paid attention to this video. As always, let us know if you have any issues.